Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we are stepping right back into the incredibly unforgiving world of the Abyss Gate to break down Episode 2, The Forest of Forgotten Gates. If you thought the initial collapse in the first episode was intense, oh man, you haven't seen anything yet. The world is expanding fast, and the dangers, they are evolving right alongside it. So, let's get into this explainer.
Right out of the gate, pun intended, I want to ground our analysis in a foundational rule for this completely new reality. Some gates protect treasures, others protect nightmares. Now that isn't just some cool flavor text, right? It's the harsh, defining reality our protagonists Kale and Lyra have just violently stumbled into. The whole concept of gates is immediately stripped of any of those traditional, hopeful fantasy connotations. We aren't looking at shiny portals to magical kingdoms here. We are looking at cages. And the terrifying part? The locks on those cages are starting to break.
Okay, let's dive into exactly how this plays out, because the episode opens literally in the dust of the jungle collapse from Episode 1. Kale and Lyra are totally exhausted, completely battered, and waking up beside a river. And then, Mira, that incredibly cold, mechanical, analytical voice of the system, delivers some incredibly grim math. A 13% survival probability. I mean, if this were a casino, you'd just walk away, wouldn't you? But Kale and Lyra don't have that luxury. That single, tiny number brilliantly sets the stakes. They didn't survive because they were suddenly overpowered. They survived by sheer, dumb statistical luck. The danger is right there, and their margin for error is essentially zero.
And honestly, it gets worse. That 13% survival rate comes with a really heavy cost. As they're searching this ruined clearing, they make a chilling discovery. There's no body. There is just this disturbing, dragging trail of blood leading off into the dark jungle. Dren is missing. Now, Lyra explicitly points out that nobody survives those kinds of injuries, so the absolute crucial question is, where did he go? Or, more accurately, what took him? Definitely keep this bloody trail in the back of your mind, because this is a masterful piece of narrative breadcrumbing that is going to pay off in a very terrifying way later in this explainer.
So, right at this peak moment of panic, the world just completely shifts gears. Out of thin air, and this is going to be super familiar to any fan of the lit RPG genre, these floating blue holographic screens just materialize. Kyle is suddenly designated as a successor candidate. What's so fascinating about this new status is how it frames the overarching mystery. This system isn't just a passive game mechanic. It's an active, entirely unknown entity making very specific choices. Kyle didn't ask to be a candidate, but that glowing mark on his arm absolutely confirms he has been chosen. The question is, a successor to who or what?
Well, the system doesn't exactly give Kyle a second to breathe and figure that out. Instead, it just instantly issues a set of totally unforgiving mandates. Look, they've barely survived Step 1, which was just navigating that massive jungle collapse. Step 2 forces Kyle to actually acknowledge and accept his new reality. But it's really Step 3 that violently shoves the narrative forward. Find gate number 98. This specific mandate leaves our exhausted, beaten-down survivors with absolutely no choice but to push on, driving them straight out of the wilderness and toward this incredibly eerie, seemingly abandoned settlement known as Blackroot Village.
And wow, when they arrive, Blackroot Village is the definition of a ghost town, just packed with these deeply unsettling anomalies. The streets are totally empty, but the doors to the homes are left wide open. It really suggests the inhabitants vanished suddenly, like right in the middle of their daily lives. But the absolute most alarming detail here, there are these ancient symbols glowing across the village walls, and they're a perfect one-to-one match to the mysterious mark burning right there on Kyle's arm. He isn't just passing through this world, he is intrinsically, historically tied to it. The silence in this village is so heavy, it's practically screaming that an ambush is coming.
And right on cue, the shadows in the actual alleys come alive. These incredibly fast, vicious shadow wolves just swarm Kale and Lyra out of nowhere. It's during this really desperate, frantic combat that Kale's connection to the system triggers, purely on defense. Without him even trying, this dark energy physically forms into blade weapons right around him. Mira coldly announces, "Ability unlocked, Shadow Manifestation." This is a massive game changer. It proves that the whole successor title isn't just some fancy label. It grants real, tangible, deadly power. The system is actively equipping him so he can survive the exact horrors it is leading him toward.
Naturally, all this magical combat commotion draws out literally the only remaining soul in the village, this old man named Elder Rowan. Just emerges from the fog. Rowan instantly spots Kale's mark and knows exactly what Kale has done. And when Kale asks how he could possibly know anything about the Abyss Gate, Rowan delivers this incredibly chilling confession. Because I failed to close it years ago. Talk about a heavy lore drop. This single line deepens the world immensely. Cale isn't the first person to try and deal with these gates, and Rowan, living out his days in a cursed ghost town, is a pretty grim warning of exactly what happens when you fail.
Following that revelation, Rowan takes them down into the secret underground room. He reveals an ancient glowing map that shows a truly staggering threat level. We aren't just dealing with a few gates here. There are 99 of them scattered all across this world. Currently, only Gate 98 is active, but Rowan reveals the true immediate nightmare of this whole situation. By activating this gate, the enemy now knows Cale is alive, the board is officially set. Cale hasn't just unlocked a door here, he has essentially rung a giant dinner bell for every single dark thing lurking in this world.
And you know that warning becomes reality almost immediately. That very night, as Kael's mark is burning and these super creepy voices are whispering, "Successor." Out in the dark, the camp is violently ambushed. 3 masked hunters literally drop down from the forest canopy. The narrative pace just absolutely skyrockets here. This isn't a messy fight against mindless wolves. These are highly coordinated, magical warriors specifically demanding the marked one. They are relentlessly mocking Kael, calling him weak, while testing his brand new shadow abilities in this incredibly dynamic, kinetic clash.
Cale actually manages to defeat one of these hunters, and the immediate aftermath gives us our absolute most horrifying revelation yet. The defeated hunter's mask comes off, and it reveals skin and features completely twisted by what he calls gate corruption. Now understand, this gate corruption isn't just some standard fantasy disease, it is a profoundly dark physical and psychological affliction born straight from the gate's influence. It shows us exactly what is truly at stake here. If Cale fails, dying isn't actually the worst outcome. Becoming a twisted, corrupted servant of the gates, that's the real nightmare.
As that corrupted hunter is lying there defeated, he drops a piece of lore that just completely shatters everything Kyle and Lyra thought they knew about their mission. The Hollow King is not trapped. He is actively searching for his body. Let that sink in. Up until this exact second, the assumption was that the gates were prisons meant to hold evil back. This flips the script entirely. The ultimate big bad is already out there, he's fragmented, and he's actively hunting. This fundamentally transforms the overarching narrative from a simple linear quest into a completely desperate race against an active ancient evil.
Let's track how fast this spirals out of control, because the hunter's words act as this grim catalyst for a really rapid environmental catastrophe. At 0 seconds, a massive earthquake literally tears the physical forest apart. Just 5 seconds later, Mira's system is violently flashing an incoming gate activity warning, and by the 10-second mark, Gate 98 violently tears its way into reality, manifesting as this colossal glowing crimson portal. The system's mandate has been fulfilled, the gate is here, and its raw, untamed power is literally breaking the world apart at the seams.
Left with absolutely no other option but to move forward, Cale and Lyra step right through that crimson portal. And here, the super frenetic pace of the episode suddenly drops to this incredibly suspenseful, awe-inspiring crawl. Because they aren't in some simple cave system. They are standing inside the ruins of a massive, ancient underground city. The sheer scale of it makes them look like tiny insects. And sitting right there at the dead center of this ruined metropolis is a gigantic, sealed dungeon door that is practically humming with the power of these glowing ancient runes.
But as they slowly approach those massive doors, a voice echoes out from behind them. Remember Dren, missing, left a trail of blood, totally presumed dead? The reality is actually far, far worse. Dren has returned, but he is completely consumed by that gate corruption we saw earlier. He's got these glowing red eyes, and he delivers this incredibly venomous warning that Kyle should have stayed weak. The sheer tragedy of their lost friend has instantly become their newest, most intensely personal threat.
Right in the middle of the absolute shock of Dren's terrifying corrupted return, Mira, the ever-calculating system AI, chimes in, and her warning cuts right through the immediate tension and replaces it with pure, unfiltered dread, unknown entity behind seal. Because here's the thing, Dren is dangerous, yes, but Mira isn't warning them about Dren right now. She is warning them about whatever is currently locked behind those massive, rune-covered doors right in front of them.
And almost as if it's responding to Mira's words, the ancient locking mechanisms on that door begin to grind. The seal shatters. The colossal doors slowly, heavily creak open, revealing absolutely nothing but pitch-black darkness inside. And then, the terrifying climax of the episode hits us. A A single, giant, glowing eye opens up in the abyss, illuminating the dark and staring directly down at Kyle. The scale of this creature is completely unfathomable.
A voice, incredibly deep and resonant, echoes from this massive entity in the dark, and it asks, "Another successor?" It brilliantly brings us completely full circle to the system's very first message from earlier in the episode. Kale is just staring up at this unfathomable nightmare, and he asks the exact question that we are all left screaming at our screens. Successor? To what? Seriously, what exactly is Kale supposed to inherit here? Is it a throne? Is it a prison? Or is it a curse? That massive cliffhanger is exactly where Episode 2 leaves us hanging. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, Focus Learners. Keep thinking about those lore drops, and I'll catch you in the next one.